I'm Kathy Murray, president of Whitman College, and I want to welcome all of you and thank you for joining us for this memorial honoring one of our own, Kyle Martz. Please take a moment now to silence your phones so that our time together will not be interrupted. Close communities like Whitman come together at times of tragedy for a number of reasons. We communicate to the grieving family that their loss is shared by others, that they're not alone, and that their loved one will not be forgotten. We share our sense of loss with each other, pause from our usual activities to allow ourselves the time and space to grieve and begin to heal. Bring some order to what feels like a chaotic time, and celebrate a life, albeit too short, but well-lived. On July 8th, all of us were shocked and deeply saddened to learn of Kyle's death. It seemed unimaginable that someone who had been so much a part of our community, of our lives, was gone. I watched as members of our community came together and quite literally held each other up as we struggled to deal with the loss. And we are fortunate to be part of such a strong, caring community. Today, we gather to share remembrances and continue our process of grieving and healing, a process that may get somewhat easier over time, but one that will never really end. Touchstone moments like this will continue to be important, and we vow never to forget. Now, although I'm almost twice as old as Kyle was, we shared a love for the Golden Girls TV show. Of course, I was the only one old enough to have actually seen those shows when they first aired, and Kyle loved reminding me of that. But between the two of us, we seemed to be able to come up with a quote from that show that fit almost any occasion. I visited the memorial space set up in Stevens Gallery in the Reed Campus Center several times over the last few weeks, getting to know Kyle better through the words of so many of you. And those of you who wrote tributes in the Stevens Gallery reminded me of Kyle's laughter that was so loud and genuine, and his style that was blunt but never unkind. You said that Kyle had the kindest heart and a transcendent sincerity that filled you with hope and trust in yourselves and made Whitman feel like home. People who sent emails about Kyle described him with words like brave, beautiful, sassy, kind, compassionate, calming yet hilarious, relentless, and entirely selfless. And can't you just picture Kyle rolling his eyes as I read these wonderful tributes? This afternoon, we will hear from some of the people who knew Kyle best and have opportunities to reflect through music. But first, let's quiet our minds with a moment of silence.
When you have gone past the reach of our thinking, for Kyle Martz, belly laughter, full, ringing, complete, replete with such biting and bountiful joy. My first day in America, you stood waving a signpost, welcome to college. A mouthful of grumble, I'm too old for this job, but eyes full of warmth saying we're proud to have you here. At ease with shy strangers across an elbowed sea, you knew how to cuss and to comfort, and Kyle, you were aching laughter and raw authenticity. You were tax files too complex to handle, and kindness both blunt and so brave. You were an America that didn't fear or smile fakely at us. You were a shining face at our concerts and festivals. You read our quotations and wanted to paste them all over your door, and how often words are brittle here and snap in our fingers like moth wings in the heat. I wish I could say them in a way you could hear. I wish you were here to hear them. My last day in America, I thanked you for helping my journey and said, "You are always a safe space for me, Kyle. You made college a safe space for us all," and just like yourself, you laughed loudly and said, "You're going to make me all mushy and bald," but your hand was over your heart, and what welcome was in your eyes as you bid me goodbye. What deep and undisguised welcome.
beginning. Kyle Martz, 35, funny, sarcastic, kind, Oscar the Grouch from Sesame Street, iconic beard and hair, or lack thereof, working 24/7 and dedicating himself 225%. You know him. I first met Kyle in 2014 at a GLBTQ meeting. He was flagging me down and called you, come here. You know, in that Kyle way. And I was 17 and small and sensitive, so I immediately thought I have transgressed against this mighty man. Oh God, what did I do? And he saw that and laughed that laugh from his belly, where he threw his head back to let it out, and smiled, which changed his whole face. And he told me that he had some resources in town that I might benefit from checking out. Because even before he really knew me, he was watching out for me. That's the kind of person Kyle was. Our relationship really kicked off my second year when I became one of the GLBTQ interns with a friend, and we answered to Kyle. The two of us were coming from a rocky summer. She had personal woes, my boyfriend died, and instead of the usual platitudes of, don't hesitate to contact me, I'm here if you need me, which people genuinely mean, but it can get swept up in the waves of grief, Kyle instead said something along the lines of, you two are responsible for the queer student body, and I'm responsible for you. He took that to heart, like he did with everything else. Later that year, Kyle and I somehow appropriated a wonderful international student as our joint mentee. If you knew both of us and are trying not to laugh, just laugh. We have grumpy, bear, 80-year-old on the inside staff member on one hand, and sarcastic and small 80-year-old on the inside student. On the other hand, mentoring a first year who doesn't even live here. The circumstances brought us closer together. I got to see Kyle in all his gentle, generous glory, and he worked a lot, which sticks out in my mind because his job was so important to him, and he loved working with us students and making a difference in our lives. Though his ears were little, on the inside they were big and could be filled with as many secrets as you needed them to be. That year cemented us as friends, even though that's probably not the word we're allowed to use because he's staff and I'm a student, but whatever, we were friends. He took care of me like a parent would because I had no one here. His aura always screamed, give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses, like he was the Whitman Lady Liberty, and would make sure we knew we had a home here. So I have got 5 pearly bits of wisdom from the man himself, who made all the mistakes he found joy in talking about, and then swore me to secrecy over as so, don't you dare tell anyone I told you this, I will end you, I know where you live. Number 1, calm down. I can't be the only one he said this to, that's impossible. Sometimes he said it snippy when I was panicking over nothing, sometimes it was a bit more gentle when it truly felt like the world was ending, sometimes it was to himself, but I'm always listening. I still try to follow this one. Number 2, take care of your dental health now, while you still can. Yeah, maybe some of you think I'm joking, but Kyle would miss meetings for dentist appointments, and every time he rescheduled, he would scare the living hell out of me, because he would tell me where they were drilling. Fun fact, he was jealous of my ridiculous gap in my front teeth because, and he told me this, gaps let the saliva move through and it helps your dental health. Number 3, Google University is free. He said this so many times, and it basically meant don't be dumb. Look it up on the vast expanse of the interwebs because your generation never had to call a library and ask them to look up a phone book from a different town that hopefully had the operating times of your favorite restaurant. It was also in response to, why have you asked me to pick you up from the airport in the rain, Mr. Fidalgo? There's a shuttle. There's a whole world of information we can utilize, and he knew we were smart enough to, even if we didn't know it ourselves. Number 4, don't drink alone, which I've gotten better at. I think that one was about keeping your friends close, even when you don't feel like you deserve them to be or you don't want them to be. And number 5, don't end up like me. This is the one piece of advice I never really liked. I know he didn't mean it in the self-deprecating way that I took it, and he was always saying that to me. And I would always cough too late. I know Kyle sometimes felt like he had taken a few too many wrong turns in life and just wanted everyone he cared about to get it right the first few times. I know that before he died, he was getting it right, at least to me, but to me, he was always getting it right. And maybe he didn't get an advanced degree and a six-figure job, but that meant we got to have him, and I'll be selfish and say that that was enough for me. And I'm proud to say that I've been told many times I remind people of him and his attitude. The last time I physically saw him, it was almost 9 p.m. at the end of May, and we had gone out for graduation drinks and food, and we were outside of Reed, and we were saying goodbye. And, you know, all of that, I'm not crying, go away, banter. And one of the few hugs we had since we weren't really huggy. And I remember I kept turning around to see him as I got farther and farther away, and he kept saying, "You'll be fine, I'll be fine, go." And I could already feel that distance stretching between us, even though we were only a few feet away. Everything was changing, and I didn't want us to be one of them. But he was a rock and a stubborn one at that. The last time I talked to Kyle was this May, and he was helping me, you know, making me feel better than I think I am, calling me smart, capable. If I need anything, reach out. It would be his pleasure and honor, and I knew he was at least 4 beers in. You know, said he was sorry about the delay because he was working late again, and told me he missed me. I'm glad the last thing I said to him was that I missed him too, because it's true, and now it'll always be true. There's this word in Portuguese, saudades. It's like homesickness on steroids for an absent place or person, for the thought of them and for everything they meant to you. The kicker is that the word is used when you specifically know you might never return to each other. Eu tenho saudades de ti. That's how you express it. But Kyle wasn't Portuguese, and neither was his language. That was German, and it was, to some extent, mine too. So I have some lines of verse from Rainer Maria Rilke's Duino Elegies for you, and it's been a while since I pulled this out, so bear with me. Aber weil hier sein viel ist, und weil scheinbar alles das hiesige braucht, dieses Schwindende, das seltsam uns angeht, uns, die Schwindendsten, einmal jedes, nur einmal, einmal und nicht mehr, und wer auch einmal, nie wieder, aber dieses einmal gewesen zu sein, wenn auch nur einmal, irdisch gewesen zu sein, scheint nicht widerrufbar. And if you're not thoroughly wowed, here it is in English. But because life here compels us, and because everything here seems to need us, all this fleetingness, that strangely entreats us, the most fleeting, once for each thing. Only once and no more. And we too, only once, never again. But to have been once, even though only once, this having been earthly seems lasting beyond repeal. Kyle went into this life knowing that we only have the one. So what did he do? He cared. He loved. He worked his tail off. There's no one that gave of themselves to their fellow humans like he did. I know this tragedy is having many think that all people want to do is harm each other. Now that's not true. Kyle taught us that pure humanity doesn't want to take lives. It wants to help them, to save them. And that's what Kyle left behind. That seems lasting beyond repeal.
Today, as we gather together in community to remember and honor Kyle, we also celebrate his life and the legacy he leaves behind. Kyle was a member of many different groups and communities. For some of us, Kyle was a student, a classmate, a colleague, a fellow community activist, a neighbor, a mentor, or maybe a mentee. And for many of us, Kyle was a dear friend, including myself. I first met Kyle about 7 years ago at a friendship family gathering for international students and language assistants at Sandra Cannon's house, a mutual friend and longtime supporter of the German department at Whitman. Kyle left an impression, to say the least. He was helping set up tables and chairs in the backyard and was telling other people what to do, giving instructions on how to set up the space. He was direct, but also helpful, and he was getting things done, and I liked that. In the following minutes, I will share with you a little bit more about Kyle's connection to and love for Germany. But first, I would like to take a few moments to talk about the type of relationship and friendship the two of us had and what Kyle meant to me. As some of you know, I was born and raised in Berlin, Germany, and I first came to the US when I was 17 years old. Kyle, too, was an international exchange student when he was about the same age, and he moved to Germany to spend a year studying at a German high school. Being a young exchange student in a foreign country is one of the many experiences Kyle and I shared. During his time at Whitman and following graduation, Kyle spent more time in Germany. He lived in Berlin, my hometown, where he interned at Schwulenberatung Berlin, a counseling and human services organization for gay men. During that time, he also studied at Humboldt-Universität zu Berlin, my alma mater. Kyle was home, Heimat, home away from home. Losing him has meant losing a piece of home. Over the last 6 years, Kyle and I became close friends, and we were colleagues too. He worked in the Intercultural Center, and I worked in the Student Engagement Center. We worked together on different projects, including international student orientation and workshops for several student groups. We saw each other almost every day, because our offices were just down the hall from each other. I would usually see him first thing in the morning walking to the water fountain outside my office to fill up the coffee pot for the coffee machine, because nothing would get done without that first cup of coffee. We would have long conversations in German about our shared projects, about work, and life in general. More often than not, he would storm down the hall into my office and complain about something. Sometimes we'd complain together, but I'd usually just listen to him. I appreciated his directness, and he appreciated mine. He often said that among many things, his time in Germany had taught him how to be direct, how to complain, and how to appreciate beer. So let me share a little bit more about his time in Germany with you. Picture this. 2002, young Kyle, no beard, no belly, more hair, dictionary under his arm, arrives in Germany, a country he's never been to before, with very little German, to meet his host family for the first time. Little did he know that his time abroad as a Rotary Youth Exchange student would turn out to have such an impact on his life. Iris, Kyle's host mother, her husband, Victor, and their 3 daughters, Vera, Julia, and Larissa, greeted him with open arms, and they became more than just a family that hosted him while studying abroad. They became his Deutsche Familie, his German host family. Kyle often spoke about the close relationship he formed with them and with many friends he made during his time there. Over the years, Iris and Kyle stayed in close contact, and they supported each other when times got rough. Following Kyle's death, I reached out to his German friends and his host family. Iris and I talked on the phone a couple of times, and I got a chance to learn more about his time with them and what he meant to her and the people around him. 18-year-old Kyle was just as funny, sarcastic, giving, and kind as 35-year-old Kyle. Kyle returned to the US and began his studies at Whitman in the fall of 2003. By then, he was almost fluent in German, and he had developed a deep interest and love for all things German. He took advanced German classes with Professors Susan Babylon and Professor Robert Tobin, who soon became his mentor. When talking to Susan about her experiences teaching Kyle, she said that he would regularly get the conversation going and break the ice by telling funny stories about his time in Germany. He made everyone feel comfortable and made people laugh. With Bob, Kyle studied both German and gender studies and learned more about LGBTQ and queer rights, topics he had personal connections to. He was an outstanding student scholar during his time here and following his graduation in 2007, and then he returned to Germany, first as a MIDAS program participant through the US General Consulate in Düsseldorf, and then a year later, he became a Fulbright scholar and spent 2 years teaching English to German high school students. Kyle's experiences as an international student and later scholar in Germany had a significant impact on both his personal and professional journey and the way he cared for his international students here at Whitman. He knew what it felt like to be homesick, to adjust to a new city, a new country, and to make mistakes when speaking in a foreign language. But he also knew how important it is to have a strong support network, a group of friends or a host family that takes care of you in challenging times. At Whitman, he went above and beyond to support his students, create a sense of belonging for them, and make them feel at home. And as I said before, Kyle made me feel at home. He was Heimat. And I know that he created that sense of home for others. Seeing so many of us here today speaks to the tremendous impact he had. And I'm grateful for the strength of our community, a community that he helped build. Auf Wiedersehen, mein Freund. Ich hab dich lieb.
Bist du bei mir zum Sterben und zu meiner Ruhe. Be thou with me to my death and eternal rest. I chose this piece because one of Kyle's friends suggested to me that it would be fitting to feature a song in the German language for his memorial. The music, attributed to J.S. Bach, is so beautiful, and the text, simply summarized, is about the force of love, which lasts beyond death and forever. The poem suggests that the person who is gone expressed love very deeply in his life, and because of this love, he will have eternal rest.
Bist du bei mir? Muy buenas tardes. Yo soy Emma López. Quiero agradecerles a los organizadores de este servicio memorial por darme la oportunidad de decir algunas palabras en nombre de Kyle Martz y darles mis más sentidos, sinceros pésames a su familia.
Good afternoon. My name is Eugenio Rojas, and I will translate, so please bear with me. I want to thank the organizer of this memorial service for letting me say a few words about Kyle Martz and my deepest sympathy to his family.
Todos sabemos que Kyle era un empleado dedicado, bueno en su trabajo. Eugenio y yo vamos a hablar un poco de su involucramiento en la comunidad de Walla Walla, especialmente con la comunidad de inmigrantes.
We all know that Kyle was a dedicated employee at Whitman, and he was good at his job. Emma and I will tell you a little bit about his involvement with the Walla Walla community, specifically with the immigrant community.
Él era miembro de la Coalición de Derechos de Inmigrantes de Walla Walla. Esta es una organización local que apoya a los inmigrantes de esta comunidad y otras regiones circunvecinas.
Kyle was a member of the Walla Walla Immigrants' Rights Coalition, a local organization that supports all the immigrants in this community and the surrounding areas.
Kyle era un voluntario que estaba dispuesto a hacer todo lo necesario para ayudar a estos miembros de esta comunidad a sentirse seguros y protegidos. Les vamos a dar ejemplos de cómo era su vida en las afueras del colegio.
He was a volunteer who was willing to do everything. He was a volunteer who was willing to do everything he could to help those members of our community feel safe and protected. We will give you a few examples of his life outside of the campus.
Un sábado por la mañana de este enero pasado, Kyle y algunos de nosotros aguantamos unas temperaturas semicongeladas en el estacionamiento del Departamento de Policías.
On a Saturday morning this past January, Kyle and a few of us endured a sub-freezing temperature in the parking lot outside of a police station.
Nos había llamado una víctima de violencia doméstica que necesitaba ayuda para hacer un reporte a la policía. Pero como todo se tenía que hacer en español primero y luego ser traducido en inglés, se tardó más de lo que esperábamos. Ahí en el estacionamiento hablamos de todo un poquito, desde su banda favorita, música favorita, película favorita y su programa de televisión favorito, y hasta las actividades físicas de su mamá.
We were called to help a victim of domestic violence to file a police report but since everything was done in Spanish first and then translated in English, it took a lot longer than we expected. Out there, we spoke about anything and about everything, from his favorite band to his favorite song, from his favorite movie to his favorite TV show, not to mention his mom's fitness activities.
Me acuerdo diciéndole, oyes, ¿hace mucho frío hoy? Y él me contestó, sí, hace mucho frío, pero unas horas incómodas no se comparan con meses o años de abuso doméstico.
I remember saying to him, man, it is really cold today. And he replied, yes, it is very cold. But I think a few hours of discomfort does not compare to months or years of spousal abuse.
Otras veces, Cayo estuvo con nosotros por largos periodos de tiempos sentados en una corte de justicia para apoyar a alguien que ni siquiera conocía, pero conocía el historial del caso. Esta era una persona enfrentando deportación y su único delito era no tener documentos necesarios y tener los focos rotos de su coche. Kyle sabía que esto era injusto y lo mejor que podía hacer es demostrar que le importaba lo que ocurría con los miembros de nuestra comunidad que son menos afortunados.
Other times, he sat with us for prolonged periods of times in a courtroom to show support for someone he didn't even know. But he knew the story of the case. This was a person facing deportation, whose only crime was that he didn't have the proper documents and a broken taillight. Kyle knew that it was unfair, and the best he could do as a community member was to show that he cared about what happens to our less fortunate neighbors.
Él estuvo con nosotros varias veces en nuestras entrevistas con otras víctimas, en donde la única forma de comunicación era en español. Yo le pregunté una vez que si le gustaría que yo le traduciera nuestras conversaciones en inglés. Él me respondió que no era necesario porque él no necesitaba entender el idioma para ver el dolor, el miedo y la frustración en los ojos de las víctimas.
He was with us many times when we interviewed other victims whose only form of communication was in Spanish. I remember asking him once if he wanted me to translate our conversation, and he replied that it wasn't necessary because he didn't have to understand the language to see the pain, the fear, and the frustrations in the victim's eyes.
Nunca vamos a olvidar los momentos que pasamos con Kyle. Él causó grandes impactos en nuestras vidas y en esta organización que sirvió, y también a las personas que apoyó en nuestra comunidad. Él se nos fue prematuramente y lo extrañamos mucho.
We will not forget the moments that we spent with Kyle. He made big impacts on our lives and on the organization that he served, not to mention the people that he supported in the community. He left us prematurely, and we will miss him.
Ahora me gustaría dirigirle unas palabras a Kyle. Quiero agradecerte todo lo que hiciste por nuestro grupo y por la comunidad de inmigrantes. Gracias por ayudarnos cuando más te necesitábamos, y perdónanos por no poder ayudarte en el único momento de tu vida que más nos necesitabas.
Now, if you don't mind, I would like to say a few words to Kyle. I want to thank you for everything that you did for our group and the community, and the immigrant community. Thank you for helping us when we needed you. And forgive us for not being able to help you in the only time of your life that you needed us most.
Mi esperanza es que algún día nos encontremos otra vez para continuar esa conversación que comenzamos en un día frío de enero. Descansa en paz, mi amigo.
I hope that someday we'll meet again and carry on that conversation that we started on that freezing day in January. Rest in peace, my friend.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much.
I should have gone first. Bear with me. It is an honor and a privilege to be given the opportunity to talk to you today on behalf of Kyle and share a bit of some personal history. Thank you to the college for this memorial and the support it is affording us. I think it's going to be good for all of us. You're weird, he said, and I said, well, you're weird too, and then we laughed, and in that moment, we both knew we would know each other a long time. And so we did know each other a long time, him being an SSRA student as well as one of my student employees. Once he graduated, we stayed loosely in touch, but when he moved back, it was like he never left. We picked right back up where we started. Many folks didn't know how close we were, how long we were friends. But Kyle and I became instant friends the minute he came up to me after that aerobics class and said, "Girl, you're gonna freaking kill me." Our eyes met and we laughed. He was just so funny, and when it came to wit, we were simpatico, each of us sending each other into fits of laughter at any given time. I inherited Kyle as a student worker in the fall of '06 when I got hired to run the new BFFC. He basically trained me how to work, showing me the ropes of a collegiate rec center, helping me navigate the many academic schedules. He and I jokingly called each other the Adam and Eve of the BFFC, as he is one of the first editors of the forums we still use in our work today at the fitness facilities. It's really hard to stand here and talk about Kyle as if he's gone, and I'm keenly aware of this feeling as I wrote the letter. Writing this note has brought me so close to calling him for advice. "Hey Kyle, you got a minute? I'm going to be writing a letter about a friend who's suddenly been taken from us. What do you think about this letter I'm going to send you?" I know his response would be, "Ugh, I'm too busy, but send it anyway, I'll look it over." And I did catch myself thinking I should call him. He's on my mind 24/7. I hear his laughter and his voice ringing in my ears. Is he really gone? I'm not convinced. He can't be gone. He still owes me money for tires we bought for that piece of crap truck he drove. I swear the tires for that thing are worth more than the truck was, because anyone who knew Kyle knew that he could give a care less about things or stuff. His mom said that anywhere that Kyle lived, he mainly left everything there and moved to the next place, as he really didn't acquire things because he wasn't really interested in owning them. It really was how Kyle lived his life. He could care less for hairstyles, latest fashion, fancy cars, or lavish meals on the town. He was not into fancy, fussy, or fusion. There were times when I would ask him to help me with decorating or a domestic type thing, and he would insist, "I'm not that kind of gay." But there were moments when he did get sucked into domestic events, such as the time he helped me surprise my husband by hanging a trophy animal head on the wall in our den. We were both so grossed out by that thing, and I seriously just wanted to bury it in the backyard, but we proceeded to hang it over a stairway, mind you, a stairway with a ledge and a large drop-off. Kyle held the ladder and the antlered head, and I sort of teetered and swung the hammer. He fretted and fussed, was nervous the whole time, saying he was scared I was going to fall off or get injured. And of course, we laughed during this whole thing because it was weird and scary, but also really funny. The week that Kyle died, there was a Walla Walla Immigrant Rights Coalition movement in our city entitled Lights for Liberty. It was meant as a vigil to bring thousands of people from around the world to local locations and protest the inhumane conditions faced by immigrating migrants. This program, WORK for short, was part and parcel of the many volunteer duties Kyle selflessly volunteered to do. He was on call most of the weeks of the year to those he volunteered for, such as the Crisis Response Team, WORK, LGBTQ organizations, and of course his beloved students. Kyle was dedicated and committed to all students at Whitman, but for the international students who came from afar, on our campus, it was Kyle who was the go-to about the how-to if you were attending from abroad, or if you were missing a form or needed help. I think one time I remember him coining himself as the International Help Desk and Google search for Whitman College. He was so very determined to see his young charges get here safely, giving them speeches and information on how to prepare for the upcoming changes in their lives. He worked tirelessly at keeping students safe, informed, and supported. It takes a team to inspire and prepare young people to succeed, but Kyle seemed to be a one-man show, giving students the opportunity to thrive with every step. In his Kyle way, with his humor and wit, he has been quoted as telling a group of students, "You're here in a new country, and you're going to go through phases of being independent and being exposed to things you may not be used to. Chances are you may try drinking, you will probably have sex, and you may try drugs, but take it from someone who knows and has made the mistakes. Don't do all three at the same time." His constant focus was that he wanted students to gain the skills and knowledge necessary to prepare for their futures and for the challenges we all eventually face in life, not just in school, but beyond. He knew what Whitman was like, he knew what the real world was like, and he wanted to support students so they could make informed decisions. Standing up for what is right can be uncomfortable and inconvenient, but Kyle felt required and compelled to act and to give others hope. I believe his calling to help and mentor members of the LGBTQ community grew from his own young experience of being gay. As a young man, losing his father and trying to figure it all out was one he talked of slowly and quietly, which, as all of us know, Kyle was a loud and fast talker. This talk was serious. His pain was obvious. Now in his 30s, he had gained awareness and knowledge about his own healing, reconciling with his past, and becoming a figure of strength for others in the LGBTQ community, giving people hope and providing support. Hope was his superpower, because as he felt resistance in the world, him simultaneously helping others was him telling himself that he could manage, that he was good, and it was okay to be himself. And by continuing to uplift those in need, he would also continue to succeed. And succeed he did. Irony being what it is, at the time of Kyle's death, he was probably in the best of all the things he found important: life, work, and health. He was so excited about the awesome plateaus he had recently achieved. His domestic life with his roommate, Kat, was fun and secure, lending stability and strength to his home life. Him joking about how he and Kat had become the will and grace of their neighborhood. He had started exercising again. He quit smoking. He hardly drank, and he was, gasp, eating breakfast, and resumed the crock-pot dinner-making routine. This dive in nutrition was part of his focus on health. He said he really wanted to get back to working out, but lacked motivation. "You have to do it with me," he said. I told him, "I'll give you $1 for every class you attend. Think of me as your fitness savings account." His response, that Kyle, "Ha, ha, ha," and the sarcastic brush off, "Okay, but you'll be the one making the money." But there we were, him cussing, me laughing, both of us moaning and groaning, and again, I keep telling myself, he can't be gone, he still owes me money for that too, dang it. He had worked diligently to get critical areas of his work here to a place they needed to be, and was honored and excited about the upcoming fall. What great work he was going to be able to accomplish. He was ready for the next phase of his professional life. But most of all, to his pride and joy, his teeth were finally fixed. Everyone heard the complaints. "Oh, I can't eat that, it has sugar, it hurts my teeth." "Nope, can't go, got a dentist appointment." "I can't afford that, I've got to pay off my teeth." He had finally finished his smile, it was done, paid for, and after his last appointment, his dentist gave him the free lunch, along with that bright pink dental clinic t-shirt. He had finally arrived to pain-free eating and no more dental bills. Kyle's fondness for his own sense of humor was no mystery, and no one was exempt from the searing lash of his tongue. His acerbic wit, laced with intelligence, was awful and funny, and at the same time admirable. If directed at you, well, you knew you were no match. For me, he just made me laugh, constantly, laughing my ass off the whole time I was ever around him, and even when he made me mad, and we did fight, he still made me laugh. Personally, I know he did struggle. I remember him saying that birthdays for gay people in Walla Walla are like dog years. And on his 30th birthday, he said, "In gay years, I'm 70. He would lament about his struggle and the conflict he felt between what he had learned in his upbringing versus what he felt as a gay man, the clash of his personal beliefs, his Christianity, and his longing to find peace within his life. Not too long after his 31st birthday, he confided he had decided to let go of having a relationship and claimed that dedicating himself to celibacy was refreshing and mind-clearing, and that he felt better and more connected to his faith by having this undivided heart and would rather focus his attention on his friends and his work. As he continued to orient himself more towards the needs of others and focus on his volunteerism, the less he felt the need to have a relationship of a personal nature. I would even say that in the last 60 days, in speaking with many others about Kyle's deep friendships with so many people, that Kyle had made a family out of friends that served its purpose in nurturing his heart. Considering the many lives Kyle touched and the scores of us who felt so close to him, I believe he met his commitment to his faith and kept his mind clear of conflict by deliberately nurturing friendships, staying active in his volunteerism, and continuing to put an amazing and steadfast energy to the development of his witties. And so, as we are all resistant to say goodbye, it does really seem that we must. But it doesn't mean we have to let go of our memories, nor our personal dedication to the things we see worthy of supporting, nor from challenging the things do we see as unfair or unjust. Because as Kyle did, so should we love completely, regardless of having complete understanding. Rest in peace, my confidant and my dear friend. I love you, and I will definitely see you in heaven someday.
The song we'll be performing is called Heaven Wins Again. It's written by Jenny Lena. And I want to dedicate this song to Kyle. He's been such an amazing mentor and friend to me, whether that's encouraging me to sing at BBC's Internation celebration. I was too shy to go up there and perform. I just wanted to host, and he was just like, nope, you gotta sing. And so that was the first time I think I ever sang at Whitman. And so he's been there to encourage me to sing, went to several different concerts of mine, and always has been so encouraging in seeing me as a leader. So I want to dedicate this song to Kyle. Too little time, too many memories. God knows I miss you so. Been calling you home, another sweet angel, and I gotta let you go. I could cry, punch you all, scream and shout, I've tried it all. Pack your bags for a place that you've never been. If there's one silver lining to losing you, my friend, it's that heaven wins again. Oh, heaven wins again. Ooh. punch a wall, scream and shout, I've tried it all. Sweet memories, now you are free. If there's one silver lining to losing you, my friend, it's that heaven wins again. Oh, heaven wins again. So I'll lift you up, I'll lift you up, I'll lift you up higher than you've ever been. I'll lift you up with nothing but love. Heaven wins again. Oh, heaven wins again. So I'll lift you up, I'll lift you up, I'll lift you up higher than you've ever been. I'll lift you up with nothing but love. Heaven wins again. Oh, heaven wins again. Give the world to see you again. One last time, hold your hand. Tell you I love you with every breath I take. Watch over me for the rest of my days. I could cry, punch a wall, scream and shout, I've tried it all. Sweet memories, now you are free. If there's one silver lining to losing you, my friend, it's that heaven wins again. Oh, heaven wins again. Ooh, heaven wins again. Ooh, ooh, oh, heaven wins again. Heaven wins again. Oh, heaven wins again.
Thank you, Dorothy, and thank you to all of our speakers and musicians, and to all of you who gathered here today to remember Kyle. Part of being a community means that none of us needs to do this alone, And I want you to know that there will be counseling services available for students in the Glover Alston Center and for faculty and staff in the Memorial Building from 3 to 5 today, and then on call through the Counseling Center. Now, I'm pretty sure Kyle would expect us to share some stories and even perhaps some outrageous laughter. So let's move over to the ballroom in the Reed Campus Center and continue to be together in community. Thanks for being here today, and please join us across the street.